Hello everybody, welcome to Technique Tuesday. Today we're going to make a stand-up card. It goes into the envelope looking flat like this, but when you open it, it actually has a base and it will stand up. It's actually very hard to show on a, oops, come out a little bit further. It's hard to show on a 2D video, but that's what it would look like. So it actually has a little base that folds up. So whomever you send it to can proudly display it on their mantelpiece or wherever they put their favourite cards from their favourite crafty person. And like I say, then it just folds, after you've assembled it all, it just folds flat and goes into the envelope. I saw this and I thought, oh, I haven't made one of those in forever. So I went through my handy dandy Save Craft Supplies and found this one, which is a Halloween version, which just has a coffin shape just for the heck of it, because why not? But again, it folds flat into the envelope and then pops out to sit on the display area. And there is a Christmas one I'd made with a lovely Santa Claus. Again, it's all the same concept, and then it just folds up flat and goes in the envelope for mailing. So Halloween, Christmas, any occasion really, whatever you want it to look like. But today we are going to make this lovely sunny summery palm tree one using one of my favorite colors, Pool Party, and one of my favorite stamp set and dies bundle. So let's get started. What do we need? We need a piece of cardstock that is 11 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2. It's actually also scored at quite a few more places, but as always, the scoring places and the dimensions and all that good stuff will be in the description below. But it is scored at 1 inch, 2 3/4, 3 3/4, the very reassuringly normal 5 1/2, 7 1/4, 8 1/4, and 10. That's what we need for the base. The piece that pops up is a piece of Bermuda Bay and an overlay of basic white. And that is cut at 5 3/8 by 3. And then this lovely piece is cut at 5 1/8 by 2 3/4. It actually goes together at the bottom because you don't see that. And while I'm telling you that, when you put it together, this little section where it's fastened at the bottom is 1 inch. So you must remember that when you're stamping the piece that pops out, because the bottom inch of that is tucked inside that, to the point that I cut myself just a little piece of scrap cardstock. So when I was eyeballing where to lay out my design, I remembered that this piece won't be seen at all. So you also need a little piece of Bermuda Bay that I use to cut this lovely lattice out. Let me get the dies in. This is the Paradise Palms stamp set, which I just love. And this is the coordinating dies, and this is the little lattice that I cut that out of to decorate the front. I then needed a little piece of soft suede to, using this die, to cut the 2 trunks out of. And then I stamped with the stamp set in Garden Green 2 of the palm toppers. It's this one. And then cut them out with the topper die cut. So we've got the lattice and we've got 2 palm trees all ready to go. So let's get started and get this assembled. Let me just pop these pieces safely off to one side, so I'm not halfway through the video, oh, I've lost my palm trees. So what we need to do is at the 5 1/2 inch point, that is where the slit is put that the piece pops out of. So in order to do that, we're going to line it up at 5 1/2, and then that puts the 4 1/2 score line in. Move the scoring blade out of the way, and then what we're going to use is the cutting blade, and we're going to put it in at the 1/2 inch mark, and we're going to run it to the 3 3/4. That gives a 1/2 inch edge. You can't cut it all the way, of course, otherwise you'd have 2 separate pieces of cardstock. So you can start the blade at the 1/2 inch mark and press it in, and then cut down till you get to the 4 3/4, and then stop cutting, and you end up with a little hole like this. You can of course do it with scissors. You can just fold your cardstock in half and just carefully cut that edge, but always remembering that there's a 1/2 inch at each end, and also remembering there's only a 1/2 inch at each end. When you come to score it and burnish it, just remember that, because it's quite a delicate little area. So we'll fold it in half and burnish those gently, and then working our way outwards, we will score along all the score lines. Like I say, they will be in the description below. You don't have to frantically try to remember them. Okay, so that is basically the box made. So here's the slit at the top, and then the 2 inches at the end are what fasten together, and then that closes down to make the box. And this area is where the piece that comes out gets sandwiched in between, which is why you shouldn't stamp 1 inch below from the bottom. So that's that piece done. What I'm going to do is go ahead and stick the lattice on, but I also want to make this a birthday card. So I'm going to take a piece of basic white cardstock and the Bermuda Bay ink. I'm just using the happy birthday stamp. I'm going to stamp it, but I'm not going to stamp it in the middle where you think you would get a full circle from. I actually wanted to have a little bit of a flat bottom. So there's a Queen song in there. It's not Flat Bottom Girls, but that's what it made me think of. So I've stamped it closer to the bottom, and then I'm going to take my 1 inch punch and punch it just with a little bit of flatness, so it fits better at the bottom. So you can see on the sample I had just missed that piece off. And then while I have the ink out, what I'm going to do is one of my other favorite tricks, and sponge around the edge of the standing up layer. So it's a 1/4 sponge slice, so we've got a nice flat edge, and then just dab it in the ink, and it just gives it a nice edging around, especially as that's going to be more or less the sky. Didn't want it to just be stark white. Gives it a little bit of definition. So that's the stamping done. What we then need to do is attach this to the piece of Bermuda Bay, which is going to, actually remember I said it was going to be level with the bottom, so it seems counterintuitive because we always have a little layer, but that piece is not going to be seen. So there we go, it's just hidden away at the bottom. And then we're going to bring in all the elements that we're going to decorate this with and get those attached. But first of all, because it's a sunny day kind of card, I'm going to, well, we're done with happy birthday, so we can pop that away. I'm just going to use the sunshine. I'm using So Saffron. Just put a sun on the card. Now we get on to a little bit of gluing. So I'm going to use my silicone mat just because I'm using the liquid mono Tombow glue, and sometimes because this is just a really fine area that I'm trying to adhere, I don't want glue to come out. If you've ever considered these silicone mats, I would say go ahead, because it's great. You just let it dry and then it just peels off. I recently saw a meme on Facebook that said kids these days want smartphones, and when I was a kid I used to just put Elmer's glue on my hands and waited for it to dry so I could peel it off, and I thought, oh, I'm old. So a little dot of glue everywhere. If you don't have a silicone pad, I would actually suggest, when it's something as fine as this, putting a little piece of scratch paper, because you don't want the sticky to get onto your work surface, which you then try and stamp something on, and when you're lifting it off, it's kind of got a stickiness and tacky and it pulls. So we're just going to attach this to the front of the box, just like that. And then I'm going to take the happy birthday with the circle that just feels odd to make it not a full circle on purpose, and attach it to the bottom where the fold is, so it looks like that. And then what we're going to do is attach the elements. So we've got the 2 palm tree trunks. Let me get the side with the definition on it. And the 2 palm tree tops. So we're going to put a nice blob of adhesive on the top of them and attach the greenery, and then flipping them over. But here's the thing, we're going to put them on each side, and there's a little bit excuse me, a little bit of the palm tree may hang over, and you can see it. So you just, when you're lining them up, just remember that which side you want to put the most of the glue on. So in this instance, this one is going on that side, and we can put glue all the way down, because it doesn't matter how much of the trunk you don't see on that 1 inch that I mentioned at the bottom. So this side, most of the glue wants to go here, and put the sticky all the way down the trunk. Try and give the palm trees a little space to go. And then one last stamp is, because it's a birthday card, we are going to say, just put the stamp on the acrylic block. Hope you find a little paradise wherever you may be. So using the Bermuda Bay again, just going to pop that between the palm trees. So that's a nice warm sunny tropical birthday greeting anyone would want. And now let's get to the assembly. So we need to pop this through the hole, and here's a little confession. I made one earlier, and when I did it, I built it backwards. I put this on, closed it down, and then stuck this to the back side. So this time I learned by my own mistakes, and I've stuck the front on, so I know this is the way that this has to be facing outwards, because sometimes when you're trying to rush and be too clever for your own good. So this is the inch on both pieces that will stick together. So what we need to do is put some tear and tape on. And yes, I know those of you who've seen my videos before are now chuckling to yourself, well, Alyson doesn't tear. No, I don't. But it's what its name is. They don't sell Alyson's tear and cut tape in the catalogue. So I will just continue to laugh at myself. So there we go, tear and tape. Super stickiness, that's what we'll call it. And then I'm going to pull this through and attach it down. So you just need to try and get it centered up, and just put it just like an 1/8 or a 1/16 of an inch, just a smidge shy of the edge, because you don't want it to show when you've stuck these pieces together. And then because we've covered this with the pop out, I'm just going to go ahead and stick another little piece of super stickiness, tear and cut. Well, it wouldn't be tear and cut, would it? It would be tear and tape. It would be cut and tape. There we go. So now it's super sticky, and it's going to stay down. Take the backing paper off. And then what we need to do is fold this piece in and attach it to the bottom. It's a little bit hard to do when you're trying to not get your head in the shot, but believe me, this is what it just needs to have. The two edges put together. I can look any angle I want when there's just me in my head. It's not so easy when you're trying to do a video. Come on. Thank you very much. There we go. it stuck down. Yay, yay for me. So there we go. This actually has a little bit of an overhang, which I will just trim off shortly. But that's it. So there's the card. This is how it, this is how it arrives in the envelope. And then it opens up and would stand on somebody's mantelpiece. Tall and proud. Stand up. It's a nice stand-up card. There's the mechanism that goes in. Just to remind you, there's the Halloween version. Those of you who perhaps have been Stampin' Uppers forever will recognize some of these elements, but like I say, it never goes, Halloween never goes out of style. It comes every year, and so does Christmas. So I think they're quite nice little, nice little surprise, and it doesn't require very much at all. It's a little bit of careful scoring, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching.